We are now live.
Okay. So hello, everyone, and welcome to our team's rapid fire quality assurance session. In Module 3, quality assurance was defined as an effort to systematically search for and identify opportunities for performance improvement. So during this session, our goal is going to be to evaluate system-level quality assurance and performance evaluation, share best practice resources, guide, mentor, and support each other as APRNs to achieve excellence in nursing practice, and to analyze and reflect on survey data results. So we will begin the session with questions 1 through 3 to Gina.
Okay. So our first question was, do APRN providers at the site have a job description? And I'm just going to take a note. If each one of you want to say yes or no, if you have that, and I'll keep track of how many did. Bethany?
Yes.
Okay. And Shay?
Yes.
Okay. And Whitney?
Yes.
And Wendy?
Yes.
And Stephanie?
Yes.
Okay. Which I would think most places would have a job description. Now, the quality of the job description may be debatable, but so we all, 100% of us have a job description. And then on our monkey survey, or Survey Monkey, 84% were yes, which I thought was interesting that there were 15% that did not have a job description.
Yeah. I think that would just be confusing as to what is your role and what are some of your expectations in your roles if you didn't have that job description. So I thought that was really intriguing to not have that from your site or from wherever you're working.
Yeah, have any of you ever worked in a place where you didn't have a job description?
No, not in nursing.
No.
Yeah, I'd be curious to hear what those positions were that people didn't have one.
Yeah, it's kind of like, how do you work? How do you, how does that even work?
Yeah.
I can only imagine what kind of chaos that is. How do you function?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then if you didn't have that job description, it's like, how then could you evaluate somebody when it came time to review their performance if you didn't know what was expected of them from the get-go?
Mm-hmm.
Same with if they had issues, if they, how do you judge them? Like if they did something negatively, how do you evaluate them when they did something wrong, because they could say, well, I didn't do anything wrong. Where's my job description? I didn't do anything bad. It would be the same way.
That's what I was kind of thinking. If there was like a lawsuit or something, then how does that work? Because I can always say, well, it wasn't in my job description because there is no job description. So.
And I think it allows the employer to kind of put more on you when you don't have an understanding or a baseline as to what the expectation is.
Yeah, I wonder if these might be like smaller practices, like there's one physician and then he hires on a nurse practitioner or a small birthing centers or something where it's just much more loose kind of a thing, maybe. But still,
I guess I could see that if they only had maybe there, and they were more, I guess, on a friend basis, and I mean, they wouldn't really need. But then still, friendship ends when problems arise, right? And when you want to sue someone, that's when friendship ends.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Still not a good practice.
No.
You would just think for legal reasons that you would have to have a job description.
Yeah, to cover yourself.
Yep.
So kind of going along with that, if you do have a job description, does that form the basis for your annual employee performance review? So we don't have to go in any order, just whoever wants to talk about that. I'll go first. We do have, I pulled out my job description and my performance review, and some of it is in both, but it's not, you can tell it's not like they took the job description and made the performance review or vice versa. You have to kind of hunt to see, okay, here's customer service, here's professional development. So some of the pieces are in both, but it's not. So I answered yes, but it's not real clear cut.
Yeah, we have a program that comes from the system level. So I work at an academic center, and so our job description is interwoven within our performance review. And so when they're asking you about quality and safety and all that stuff, there are bits and pieces of our job description right there, black and white. Are you doing what you're supposed to be doing? And then, review your performance based on that. So ours is interwoven within our performance management.
I work at a military treatment facility, so with government workers, and ours is twofold. So for the military, it's like its own language, but like for me, I'm active duty, so it's like it's literally its own language. But for civilians, sorry, and contractors, it's not. It's like literally word for word. It's with what the PD is, so it's very cut and dry.
You kind of have to hunt for it between the job description and the evaluation. It's there, but and it's worded sometimes kind of weird, and they're like, well, this is where it matches up, and I'm like, okay, as long as it's there and I meet my goals, that's all that matters.
Mine's the same way. It's a mix.
Same here. Ours is mixed.
So everybody's saying yes. Some of them are a little more clearly aligned than others. Yeah, and I think after reading all of our module readings and kind of looking through this, we really, our facility or our large healthcare system I'm part of really needs to probably redo all of it to kind of align more. I'm curious, do you all have, this doesn't necessarily go with this, but are your reviews different from like maybe the medical assistants in your office or other people, or are they basically like a form that everybody does?
Ours are tailored to your job description. So, the nurse has one that's different than the MA, that's different than the provider. And so ours are very much, this is what you should be doing, and this is what we're going to review you on. And so everybody's is different.
Ours is the same. It's tailored to your job and your job description.
Same with us. It's tailored to the job.
Yes, mine too.
Well, mine is not. I do the same exact employee review as my medical assistant. It's exactly the same. Now you can, like it asks about what goals you have. So of course your goals might be different, but it's very generic. Okay, so on the SurveyMonkey, the way they answered that is the majority, 63.7% said that their job description was the basis for their review. So we were in agreement there. And then question 3 breaks down the pieces of the performance review process. So let's just kind of go through each one of those. So is your annual performance review conducted by your direct supervisor?
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
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 Everybody's yes? Okay. And I'm curious, who is your direct supervisor? And what role do they have?
We have a region. I work in urgent care, and we have a regional operations manager.
And is that a NP or?
No, she is not, and that is That's a touchy discussion at our workplace because we feel like, how can you evaluate us as nurse practitioners if you're not a nurse practitioner yourself? So yes, but she is not a nurse practitioner. She has a bachelor's degree in business administration.
That's really funny, Wendy, because ours is the same way. Ours, you know what? She is a nurse, and I think she said she's practiced for a couple of years, and it's a very, like you said, touchy subject at our job description. I mean, at our job, because like the other MP I work with, she's like, how in the world can she evaluate me on how to be a nurse practitioner when she's not a nurse practitioner? So that's something that
Oh, I think you froze. Did we lose her? Oh, you're back.
Oh, no, I said it was just a shaky discussion in our affiliate.
Mm-hmm. What about the rest of y'all?
Ours is done by our manager, who is supposed to have a master's of nursing, but she's been working for so long they kind of grandfathered her into this position. But it is a manager, and all of our managers are supposed to be master's prepared nurses.
So at my facility, the chief clinical officer, who is a master's prepared nurse, is who does the evaluations for all of the APRNs.
In my facility, it's a lieutenant colonel. She is it's basically a rank structure thing because it's a military treatment facility. She's the officer in charge, the OIC. So it's just all about the rank, basically. She has a master's degree and she does all the evaluations, military and civilians. But that's just a totally different structure because it's military.
Well, at mine, my direct supervisor on paper is the office manager for our office, who is her background is she's a medical assistant. So she basically lets me fill it out. It's a two-part. I fill out my part, then she fills out her part. So I fill out my part and she basically goes behind it and agrees with everything that I put. It's pretty ridiculous. Okay, does your, so all of us said that it is conducted by our direct supervisor, and on the Monkey survey, the majority were also. What about including peer review? Do you all have a peer review piece to it?
We do, and it's just another person who works in our, department or whatever. So it could be a nurse. So one year I could, review a nurse, and then the next year I could review an MA. So it just kind of changes. But yeah, I do a peer review.
Ours is just a peer chart review, and it's the APRNs in the urgent care pick 20 charts from another APRN and go through it. Check yes or no if you've documented vital, that kind of thing, through a checklist, because like Whitney and I've talked about, the operations manager she's not capable, so she doesn't know what's supposed to be in a chart and what's not. So we do that.
We do peer review. Usually nurses do nurses, MAs do MAs, the support staff does the support staff, enlisted, which are lower ranking, do lower ranking, higher ranking do higher ranking. That's usually how it's done here.
At my practice, they do not do peer reviews. Currently, initially there were only 3 nurse practitioners at the time, and they just kind of revamped a couple of things, and now we have 10. But at this time, they don't do peer review.
At my site, we do peer review. Another NP does me, and I do hers.
Okay. We do not in my site. So 4 out of 6 of us said yes, that we do peer review. And what percentage is that? Let's see. Let me calculate. So 67% compared to theirs was 55% on the Survey Monkey. So still the majority do. That's good. And then I guess that links into, like Wendy was saying, the chart audit. is part of hers. Is that a part of your all's the other of y'all too?
No.
Who said no?
I'm sorry, it's Whitney. I said no.
Oh, okay. All right.
That's a no for Bethany as well.
Okay. Stephanie, do you all do chart audit? Oh, you're muted.
Yes, we do.
Okay. And Shay, do you all do it?
Yes, they do.
Okay. So we're half and half on. We do not. Well, we do chart audit. All of us get. They bring in some auditing group to chart audit all of the providers once a year, and then if we aren't documenting correctly, they put you on a performance improvement plan. But it's not really a part of our annual review. It's not linked into that.
Right, it's the same for us too.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the same here.
Yeah, they ought to link that in as part of it, don't you think?
When I worked at the little clinic, they did it like Wendy said. Like we had a list, and at the little clinic though, our supervisors were nurse practitioners. So they would give us like a sheet of like, you know, they'd be like, hey, Whitney, you're gonna go review 5 of Wendy's charts between these days and these dates.
Mm-hmm.
So you would do it and you would just follow the criteria that they had. So I like that.
Do they know that you're the one doing the chart audit? Like, do you feel pressure to be
No,
nice?
it's anonymous.
Okay.
Because it's across, well, the little clinic, I guess I should say, is a retail health clinic. So, I mean, I had someone I've never met before in my life. And I just, you know, because normally it's only one provider at the site. It's normally a provider and an MA. So they just give you somebody and you do it.
That's how ours is. It's anonymous. It's regional, I work in urgent care, so it's over 5 or 6 clinics within 100 miles. So they just assign you a person and you don't even know them.
Okay. So we said 50% of us do the chart audit, and that was about the same as what they had. 49% said they did have it, 51% said they didn't, or 52%. And then, all right, so is patient experience of care data, like patient satisfaction scores or that kind of stuff, part of your all's annual review?
Yes, for me, for Wendy.
Okay.
It's not for me specifically, it's for the, clinic overall. So then it kind of looks on, look back at how well is the clinic performing. So it kind of is tied into providers, but usually it's overall, clinic overall.
Mine is the same as Bethany. Oops.
Mine is the same as Bethany's also. It's just an overall picture of how we're doing as a facility.
What about you, Stephanie?
Sorry, I try to mute so because I cough all the time. Sorry. So it is if you have like we have a we call it a ICE comment, where you can actually go online and patients or customers can give you a positive comment, and you can have that for sure. If they mention you, you can actually use that and in your review. But overall, if there is the clinic is not doing well or the clinic is doing great, it's not like mentioned per se in the review. But if you're being mentioned, then for sure you can use it in your annual review. But if the clinic is not doing too good, I mean, that doesn't affect you.
Okay. So I think from that, Wendy and Stephanie are the only ones that, yes, you directly have customer service as part of it. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes, we do. Yeah, we
Okay.
have.
All right. So 2 out of 6, so 33%, which on the SurveyMonkey, 44% or 45% had that it was. So we're a little lower than that. We get data back periodically from, they do Press Ganey. I don't know if y'all are familiar. That's the company they use to do the patient satisfaction. So we get that, but it's not a part of our review. It's funny because all these little pieces, we get a lot of that, but it doesn't get included in our annual review. It's weird. Okay, does your annual performance review process include a sit-down experience?
Mine does. I get pulled into my manager's office, and then she sits down and said, "Oh, so based on your peer review, this is what came back." And then what she added in comes back, and then we talk about what my goals were, what areas of improvements are, what areas of strengths were. So it's a good 10-minute sit-down conversation with my supervisor.
That's good.
Mine is the same. We have to go in there in her office, and it's about 10 minutes or less. Because a lot of times I don't really. Everything's pretty good most of the time. So.
Mm-hmm.
Mine's the same way. It's short and sweet. Check marks down the list and have a nice day.
Mine, civilians, yes. Military, no. So civilians get their 10-minute sit down. They get talked to if it's maybe positive or negative. Military, they just get theirs handed and that's it. And there's no sit down. I don't know why, but there's really no sit down. It may be negative or positive. There's no sit down.
So you're military, so you don't get a sit down.
No, I don't get no feedback. Now I can question it, and I can really question why. Of course, I'm not going to question a positive one, but a negative one I can question it. But then that is that can drag out into a year or two why I'm questioning it, and lots of times it's not worth it. So.
So there is no sit down for hours unless you have concerns or questions, or the CCO has concerns or questions.
Yeah, there's no sit down for mine either. Like I said, I just fill out my part and she fills out her part and it gets submitted. It's just basically filling out a form. What do you think if you don't have a sit down experience, would you like to have that?
I think it would only be fair to discuss, especially if it's negative. There's always two sides to the story. I mean, you would have a chance to speak up and say something before it is written in stone. If it's submitted, I know for military, it gets submitted to a system, and once it's submitted and it's signed, there's really no taking it back. And I think it would be fair if the person got a chance to explain themselves and before it's literally submitted. I mean, what can you do afterwards? And there's nothing really you can do. And that would be, a chance for that person to explain themselves. And right now, there's really nothing you can do. I've never gotten a negative one. I've been in the military for almost 16 years, but I've heard people complain about the system, the way it's kind of screwed up. And I mean, there's nothing you can do then.
Anybody else? I think it would be nice, even just more for the positive too. I mean, we all like to hear positive feedback too, just to have somebody say, here's kind of what I've seen in the last year. These are some positives I've seen. You're doing great at this, to kind of give you just some give and take, positive and negative. And then, so the next question, does it involve professional goals and development plans for the year?
Mine is yes. We sit down and we talk about what are my goals for the year professionally and, personal goals for the employment. But then we also do it as an office. So then the whole group comes together, and then what are the goals that we have for the next year as a whole.
That's nice.
Yes, here too. There's goals. There's actually a plan for the civilians, a ladder they call it. That if you want like a good rating that has different level of ratings. You're supposed to achieve this, this, and this. So they talk about it. What in order to get this type of rating, you have to do X, Y, and Z. So they have like a very specific way of doing the ratings, and so it's very specific.
Let's see who's still on here with the shade. Do you all have goals and development stuff?
I mean, it's written on the paper. As far as that goes, you know.
Are you required to put it in?
Honestly, I don't even know if because we don't really have a sit down, so it's kind of pointless.
Yeah. What about you all, Whitney?
You said, do we have goals?
Do you have do you, as part of your annual review, do you have to set professional goals or some sort of plan?
Yes, we do have to have goals. They like us to write down at least a couple. I'm sorry, my internet went out.
That's all right.
Laptop. But yes, we have goals, but what's kind of funny is we write down these goals, but then no one comes back and is like, hey, did you meet your goals? So it's kind of pointless to me to write out goals if you're not going to keep track of the progress.
Mine's the same way.
Yeah. Do they make them SMART goals, like specific, measurable, actionable?
Not really.
We set goals, but and they don't have to be in any certain format. And now that you're saying that, that we don't go back like from the last year and say, oh, this was your goal last year. Did you reach that? Nobody ever goes back and looks at them. Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of feel like that's a waste of time for me to write down a goal and you're not keeping track of my goal. I don't know. That's just time to me.
So how many of you all had a goal of finishing your DNP? That was my goal. You're almost there. Good. See, you can go back and say, I met my goal.
Are you sure?
All right. So all of us have goals on there. Whether they really use them or not is debatable. So on the Survey Monkey, 69% said yes. We all said yes. So that's good. So that's all for the first 3 questions, unless, from the readings or anything else you all kind of thought was a good practice or something that you wished was different with your job description or your performance appraisal?
It doesn't look like anyone else has comment.
Okay.
All right, so we'll move on to our next 3 questions, questions 4 through 6, which will be Whitney.
Okay. So the question number 4 was, does the practice participate in a data registry for benchmarking? So I guess my first question is, does anyone's site participate in the benchmarking data registry? Or would you like me just to go through? I'll just go through all of them. Does anyone participate in the ACNM benchmarking?
No.
Okay. Does anyone participate in the AABC perinatal data registry?
No.
No.
Is anybody on here a midwife?
No.
Oh, Stephanie is. Did
Stephanie,
you raise your hand,
okay.
Stephanie? Okay.
I am a midwife also, but we right now I'm not practicing as a midwife. I just graduated. I'm still in the ICU setting.
Oh, okay.
I'm not practicing as a midwife either right now. I haven't switched over in the Army yet.
Oh, okay. So everyone's practicing. Okay. So no one in our group is practicing as a midwife, but we do have 2 midwives.
Yes.
Okay. Does anyone's practice site participate in the centering counts?
No.
Okay, Stephanie said yes.
Mm-hmm.
What about the MANA stats?
No.
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 And any other, does anyone else's practice site participate in any other data registry not mentioned above? I guess we can just go through Bethany.
Not really.
No? Okay. Gina?
We get data from the MGMA, Medical Group Management Association. Seems like that's what I hear mostly, that they'll tell us where we line up in benchmarks against MGMA.
Okay. What about Stephanie?
No.
Wendy?
No.
Yeah. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm on my phone and I can't really see. Okay. Shauna?
No.
No. So only two, and my site's kind of the same as far as we don't participate in a data registry for benchmarking. For the person who does the centering counts, would you like to tell us like a little bit about that?
The centering?
Yes, who said that?
I didn't, Stephanie.
Okay, I'm sorry.
So how the centering works, or?
Yes, like what are you, yes.
So does, like the centering program, or?
However you, yeah, I guess, because I wasn't really sure what centering counts was. I'm familiar with the ACNM and things like that because my background's in the NICU, so I worked with midwives.
Mm-hmm.
But
so we do the centering program, but was asking about the centering counts, you said, or?
Yes, it's asking about the centering counts.
I'm not sure what that is. I know centering, the program centering pregnancy, but.
Oh, okay.
So I'm not sure the centering counts, like.
Oh, okay. So no one's like, well, we only had one other person. Who was the one person that had the other?
Gina.
Gina?
I did. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, so 1 out of 5, or 1 out of 6 of us sites participate in a data registry for benchmarking. Interesting. Question number 5. If the practice does participate in a data registry, does it do the following? So I guess all of these, will be generated for Gina, since she's the only one that follows that. Does your site use data reports to identify quality improvement projects?
Yes.
Does your site use the data to guide provider level analysis?
Yeah, we get they'll track our RVUs, our productivity, and we get shown against the MGMA benchmarks. Like if their goal is you want to be above the 65th percentile, so we get that kind of data quarterly to show where our productivity is.
Okay. Do you have to report to consumers in the community?
Yes, our system does. Now that's not through MGMA. I'm not sure what it is, but like they've got billboards everywhere that says, we're ranked at this level for whatever procedure, cardiac or whatever. They do a lot of that kind of reporting.
Okay. And do you report to the healthcare team?
Yeah, they give out our data. We have quarterly meetings with our office and share all of that.
Okay, so you start with 100% on that. Sorry, let me throw that page to the side. Question number 6. Describe your experience of witnessing the following skills to support improvement relating to the human side of change at your clinical site. So the answers are, I have not seen this in practice, I've seen this model routinely, or have seen this occasionally. So I'll just go through these and ask people individually. So I guess I'll start with who's first. Bethany, at your site, have you seen organized effective team meetings?
Yes.
And when you say you've seen that modeled routinely or occasionally?
Routinely.
Routinely. What about model behaviors that reflect active listening?
Routinely.
And handle difficult conversations with individuals and express opposing views?
Okay, occasionally.
Occasionally? Okay, Gina, what about you? Have you seen effective team meetings at your site?
Yeah, I see that routinely. The active listening occasionally, and the difficult conversations, I would say occasionally.
Okay. Shauna? Oh, Stephanie?
All routinely. It's very structured, military led, very structured. You see that all the time.
Okay. What about Wendy?
Routinely for all.
And Shayna?
Routinely for all.
Okay, so that's good. Most of us are routinely for my site. We do have organized effective team meetings. We have huddles, I feel like, all the time. For active listening, I feel like because Planned Parenthood is mostly, well, I guess for the sites that I've worked at, is mostly ran by nurse practitioners. We all do a really good job of listening, and I feel like I can, even like we have a new computer system, and if I don't like certain parts, I feel like even talking to the IT person, she's active, she listens to what I have to say, and she does, really receptive to feedback. And as far as the opposing views, that happens all the time, especially with our organization right now. We're going through a lot of changes. A lot of people are quitting. A lot of interesting things are happening, and everyone's like kind of expressing their views on a regular basis. So, does anyone have anything they want to add to that? Any of those questions?
All right, so we will move on to the next, which is going to be questions 7 through 9 for Wendy.
Okay. Question 7 was not really a question. It says to please enter your information for tracking. All data is de-identified during analysis. So, and the questions, the answer choices were name, company, address, city, town. So I don't really know. There's no question there. If you guys want to say where your name and where you work and where you're from.
I'm in Corydon, Indiana.
Okay. I'm in Frankfort, Kentucky. I work in urgent care.
All right. I'm Bethany Odero. I live in Fishers, Indiana. So just, 4 hours north of you, Gina. Mm-hmm. And I work at a large academic hospital.
I'm Whitney Graves. I live in Louisville, Kentucky. I do mostly home health, and I work at Planned Parenthood.
I'm Shay Dowdle. I live in Charleston, South Carolina, and I work currently as an ICU nurse, but doing my project at a metropolitan hospital where I work.
I do my project and I work at Fort Belvoir Community Hospital. It's by Alexandria, Virginia. It's about 45 minutes from Washington, D.C. Yeah.
Okay. And question 8, please identify the location of the clinical site you're working with. I think some people already did that. Mine is, I work in urgent care as my job, but my project is at the health department in the syringe exchange program.
My project, and I work at a big suburban metropolitan center.
My project is at Planned Parenthood.
My project is, again, in a suburban hospital.
Okay, and our SurveyMonkey looks like the majority of people that answered work in a suburban or a metropolitan area. Rural and urban were, I think rural was a little bit more at 31.48%, and urban was, no, they were actually identical, 31.8% as well, but suburban was the most common clinical site. So out of all of you all, what is your all's places, rural, suburban, or urban, would you think? To me, it's kind of hard to differentiate. I don't know the criteria for rural versus urban versus suburban.
Mine would be urban.
Mine's suburban.
I mean, I think mine is kind of a rural versus suburban. I mean, Whitney, you're probably familiar with Frankfort.
Yeah, I was just call that more. I don't think I would call that suburban because I don't. No.
Yeah, Frankfort, it's kind of a hard thing. It's Kentucky's capital, but the population is really not that much. I think we have a population of like 50,000 people, I think the last time I looked. But during the day, when because all of state government is housed here, during the day when all the state government workers are here, the population's like 150,000. But at 5 o'clock in the evening, everybody goes home to Louisville or Lexington or surrounding areas. So for me, it's kind of a gray area as to what Frankfort really is.
I think I would call it a suburban.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I guess what do you call a place where it takes you an hour to travel 15 miles?
Urban, I would say.
Yeah. So horrible traffic here. Horrible.
Yeah, that's bad. Okay, and question 9 is, did everybody answer question 8? I think we may have lost Gina. But that's okay. She can come back in. Please select the category that best describes the clinical practice setting you are working with. On our SurveyMonkey, the vast majority, 73.7%, were in outpatient clinic or office. With community-based hospital, I guess that would probably be you, Bethany, would be second, tertiary care hospital, and then the CABC accredited birth center was last. So for me, mine would be, the health department would be an outpatient clinic or office.
No, it's outpatient also.
Mine is outpatient, but it's also it's a community-based hospital. It's all in one building. Like the clinics are, it's like literally one building. Everything is in one building.
Gotcha.
I'm a community-based in a community-based hospital.
Gotcha. Okay. And I think that's it for me. So question 10 and 11, who has that?
I do.
Okay.
So question 10, please identify the category that best describes the clinical care model where you are conducting your DNP project. So the options are combined practice model, midwifery, APRN-led care, physician-led care, or shared practice model. So what do you guys have?
We are more APRN-led at my facility. Granted, we have to have collaborative agreements here, but because we don't do like abortion services at ours, it's mostly APRN-led.
Okay.
Mine's shared practice.
Shared, okay.
Mine is APRN led. We also, Whitney and I are both in Kentucky, so we have to have a collaborative agreement, but the physician doesn't have to be present in the clinic, so they're never there at the health department. It's just one physician that's, he's like the chief medical officer of the public health department, but I've never met him. So,
Well, and mine is combined practice model, and so.
Oh wait, Gina's back. Did you want to answer, Gina?
Yes.
We're on question 10.
With question 10.
Okay.
Please identify
Okay.
the category that best describes the clinical care model where you are conducting your DNP project.
Okay. I'm in an outpatient setting clinic with a combined practice model. It's 1 MD and 2 NPs in practice together.
And so we're missing one person. So I have
That's me, Shay.
Okay.
We are a combined practice model. We have both MDs and APRNs.
Okay, so on the SurveyMonkey was 58.89%, and we are kind of so 3 of us said combined, 2 said APRN led, and 1 said shared practice model. So okay, and then the last question, state one thing that you learned about quality assurance and performance evaluation during this experience. I had looked at the spreadsheet, and there were very small, but there were plenty of quizzes, and I just picked a few out. But what did you learn? Like, what did you like? You know, what kind of experience did you make so this far?
Well, like I mentioned before, I just think my employer needs to revise the job descriptions and the way the performance evaluations are done to be more aligned with what our organization goals are, and just kind of bring it from the top down and redo everything so it does include quality assurance measures.
Anyone else?
I would like to have someone who is an APRN evaluate my work. Not nothing against anyone else, but I just find it hard for someone who doesn't know. You can read a job description, but I feel like, you know, if you were like me, then you would understand the struggles, pros, cons, you know. You'd be able to evaluate me better.
Yeah, I've had the same thing as Whitney. I feel like that we need APRNs doing our evaluations, not business people. I just don't feel like we get anything out of, I don't feel like I get anything out of my evaluation because I can't conversate with her about the professional expectations that the company has for APRNs that work for them, because she doesn't understand. So it's just like during my evaluation, I just kind of sit there and, you know, nod my head because I just can't tell her that anything because she doesn't understand.
And if there were opportunities for improvement, how can they have that kind of discussion with you? You know,
they don't. They just don't.
This year we've kind of changed how we do our performance evaluations. So with the hospital has changed their core values. And so now our performance management is kind of based on what the core values are for the hospital to make sure that you're still in line with the hospital values. A lot of our staff find it hard to take it serious. So they want to tie it into how you perform is how you get paid. And so they've kind of taken that out. So we're now on a pay raise structure. So kind of, you know, people are like, well, why am I going to do an evaluation when it doesn't really matter? Because they already know what my raise is. And so a lot of people want their performance management to be tied into their raise, and our facility has taken that out. So there's a lot of employees that don't take their performance management serious. So I think, you know, motivation is a key piece to it. So when there's no motivation, you know, your performance doesn't change. And then now we're having issues with management, keeping staff accountable for what they do and do not do.
Anyone else?
I would say kind of the similar situation with Gina, that, you know, why the thing that I learned that's important is, you know, why the evaluation should be based on the job description. Again, I'm not working as an APRN at my site, so I got a lot of feedback from the nurse practitioners who do work there, and that's just kind of the biggest issue that they had. You know, they have such heavy workloads, and a lot of times, you know, they're not seeing the same patients and they're not following the same physicians all the time. So, you know, they've kind of talked about making sure that their evaluations match what they're actually doing. Anybody have any other questions or anything else to add? I believe that's the last question for our session.
I apologize for mispronouncing your name, Shane.
That's okay. I still answer.
I have a cousin named Shayna, and I was like, Shayna, like, Shayna, what are you doing? And I was like, but you're not I don't know what happened. I'm sorry.
That's all right. I'll still answer. It's fine. All right. So we're at over 45 minutes. So if no one has anything else to add to our discussion, I want to thank you all for attending our session. It was a good opportunity for us to kind of have a discussion about what we're all doing in our practices.
Good.
Agreed.
All right.
Thank y'all so much.
Good
You have a good day.
Thanks. See ya.
Thank
Did
you.
we start the broadcast? And so I'm sorry, I'm just going to clarify what's going on here. Bethany